extremely important because literally everything I preached in this sermon then happened over the case of 7 years. I preached a sermon called When God's Yes Actually Looks and Feels Like No. I was moving in a yes moment. Everything was coming together the way that I felt like me and God had planned it, right? And then I found out that I wasn't in on some of the meetings because I woke up, like a dream. I woke up 2 weeks later after having not only been having been on life support, but my new wife, my wife of only 2 years at that moment, had to make a decision over whether she was going to listen to the doctors or listen to her heart. Because at that moment I was so sick that it made more sense to just let me go. It would make more sense. It would make more sense because it didn't look like it was going to work out. I was on a machine called an ECMO machine, and it was doing a lot of the everything for me. I was on every type of life support machine you can be on. Not just once, not just twice, but 3 times. The third time I was on it was in 2020. And when I woke up that time, it was worse than any of the other times because I was on 24-hour dialysis. I already had this machine called an LVAD. We found out that the reason it wasn't working, because they gave it to me back in 2018, but in 2019, I spent 26 or 27 different times in the hospital. And not like one day, one overnight stay. We're talking about weeks and months. And that last quarter of 2019, moving into 2020, right in December, right the season we're approaching now, right at December, I went right back into a coma again and didn't wake up until the middle of January. That's the time I told you when I woke up, nothing worked. They told me I was gonna have to live in the hospital until transplant. And get this, I wasn't even on a transplant list at that time. And so everything definitely looked like the answer was no. But then something happened peculiar, and you can check me on this because my nurse is right here, that's been with me since 2018. I started my dream state early because it was then that God imparted to me that it was all a dream. Even while I was in it. See, this is the thing about my testimony, is that I was forced to praise and minister while I was still in it. What I mean by that is I was in the ICU and they were still taking me in a wheelchair to other patients' rooms, talking to them, encouraging them because of the way I decided to be as a patient. Because I could decide to let the devil win. I did that in 2018. That didn't feel too good. So in 2020, I did what the worshiper said. I got what I came for. In that time, I said, you know what, if you say I'm going to stay here, I'm going to start touching my body. They said, your kidneys are never going to work again. I started touching my body and I started praying. I started praying the scriptures. I prayed the 91st Psalm and I prayed the 27th Psalm. I prayed the 23rd Psalm. I told anybody that would listen to me that the reason I could walk through the valley of the shadow of death was because my light was with me. And if y'all know how to make a shadow, you know that all you need at first is an object. That was me. And darkness. That was the situation. But how many of y'all had a situation where you were in darkness until the light showed up? When the light showed up, I didn't have to fear anymore. When the light showed up, I could look the doctor in his eye when he came to tell me so happily and nonchalantly, hey, Mr. Bradley, aren't you happy your kidneys started to work again? And I was like, my brother, you said they weren't. I never said they weren't. Because it was that moment that I thought about Colossians 3. I could look above what was going on into the plane where the power was. I could look above the heads of every saint, every person that was telling me something different, and I could see God. It says, look, focus on those things that are above. Set your affections on those things that are above and not on earth. In other words, he said, don't set your emotions to the things that are being said on earth where they only have the power to pronounce you dead. But set your affections on the one that can keep you alive. And so I did that, and bit by bit, where they said I was going to have to stay in the hospital until I got transplanted, I was able to leave 2 weeks after they made that statement. Now, I'd be back in 2022. But when I came back in 2022, the thing that was peculiar about this time, now as I think about it, coming to the hospital, that time I had it was on October 24th, and I got a nosebleed that wouldn't stop. At that time, I was on the transplant list. But I was at the top of my wife's 3rd trimester with our first child. And after bleeding for 3 or 4 hours, literally, the nosebleed, it did not stop. I was covered in blood on the way to Baltimore, to Maryland University Medical Center. And when I got there, still covered in blood, having to advocate for myself, because if I'd have let them give me a blood transfusion, my transplant was going to be out of the way. And that's really what I needed, was the transplant. But it was really that perspective change, even in that moment, where God said it was all a dream. My wife was there. She said, this time is not going to be like next time. She declared for me that this time, though it looks the same, this is not going to end the way it looks like. I was able to hold on to those words. I was able to keep myself encouraged and fight like I needed to fight during those last few months while I waited a transplant. It wasn't even a few months, I'm sorry. I came in October 24th. I got transplanted November 25th and 6th. It took 2 days to do the heart and the kidney. And the biggest blessing is right there smacking my wife in the face right there. My baby, that was the dream. My babies, both of them. I just wanted to say that, like, man, God is so good. I have such a different perspective change that I'm not even remotely the same person that I was before that. Yeah. Like, now I have so much confidence, and I'm a person who always was not as much confident. But I have so much confidence, but it's because it's not in myself. It's in God. Everything that somebody could say about me is probably true. I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not the other thing. But God is everything, and He is my everything. And if He can do it for me, He's going to do it for you. He told me to come and just leave a message with you that it won't always be like this. Songwriter said it's turning around for me. Those words and the words of the Walls Group, Satisfied, was what kept ringing through my ears while I was there waiting. Even before I knew I was on the transplant list, I was waiting and longing for God to show up and make a difference through me. And though it took 7 years of being sick, barely able to walk from here to here without losing my breath and my strength. But now I'm walking. There was an instrument they used to help me walk called a cardiac walker. It's like I'm leaving right out, there's a semicircle. But for you to use it, they had to help you step up. And it's these 2 bars. And when you get there, your arms are propped up. And you have to step into it. You have to hold on. But then the next thing you have to do is you have to move. Now, granted, I couldn't walk. But when I stepped into it, I stepped up and I held on, I could move. God said, that's important because you have to understand that cardiac walker gave me an idea of what it was like to say, in Him, I live, I move, and I have my being. And so I don't care what it looks like where you're at now. If you can step up and hold on to God, He will help you move. He will walk you through whatever your situation is, whatever your journey is. My God will move you if you let Him. He'll walk for you. He'll teach you to walk again. How do I know? Because He did it for me. And if He'll do it for me, then I believe He's doing it for you even tonight. And God bless you. I thank you for the invitation. I pray even now for the other testifiers who are coming. And I just want to real quick thank my wife for being here. Yeah. My baby girl, Ari. Again, like I said, legit, this is my nurse who's now family. She's the one who helped fight for me in ICU, the doctors, the other nurses. That's a whole nother story. And this is one of my best friends here, Joseph. So I just wanted to thank him for coming out. Thank you, and God bless you all.